Hello, welcome to the Designer Spotlight series. So you may be wondering what this talk is all about. Well, it's about connection. I'm Snow Blackwood, the owner and creative director of Snow Bee Designs. We're a small creative agency here in Portland, Oregon, and I'm here in my office at Vita Co-working, which is in the old Jansen building. I learned early on that no matter what field you work in, not just design, it's easy to get into a bubble. Talking to the same people every day, doing the same type of work day in and day out, and the next thing you know, you may not be feeling as inspired. But if you break out of that bubble, maybe by taking a class or reaching out to a firm or someone you admire for an informational interview, you change your flow. You become more aligned with the heart of what you do. So with these talks, we get to hear the different perspectives and processes of other designers and creatives of all types. I've reached out to some of the most talented, creative people that I know, and people that I don't know, but I've heard good things about, or I admire them. So enjoy the show, and feel free to reach out to us here at Snow Bee Designs. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here today again with these fabulous women, yourself included, of course.
Hello.
Okay, so that's Cami. Cami runs her own interior design firm. Then we've got Jennifer Wright,
Hey.
the architect, and then we have Kat. Kat has a huge career in design, both for apps and for papers and magazines, and now runs a farm out on Savi's Island. So you guys, thank you so much for being here. I always say Savi's Island, and it's wrong, isn't it, Kat? It's Savi Island.
Savi Island.
Always say that wrong. Man, gonna start off by making mistakes right out of the gate. So last time we were all together, we chatted about a bunch of things, and I think that Snow kind of pulled a couple of clips from that conversation. So I thought I would start off with one just to get us going. And this is Cami from our last chat.
I'd say the majority are just at home and they're like, this isn't working. Like none of what's going on here is working. I don't have the amount of space that I need. We need to have a more compartmentalized home. There needs to be zones in our home. Of course, because there's homeschooling kids. There's a lot of, your home is your gym. It's it's your restaurant. It's your school. It's all these things. And hopefully that's short-lived. But I think one of the kind of commonalities is that, when you're really busy and you're just going at, like gangbusters, you kind of can forgive that your home's not meeting your needs. And so now when you're paying attention to all these things and you realize that, no, it's really not. It's not comfortable. It doesn't have enough light. The flow, isn't right. There's just, a whole gamut of all the things.
Obviously some time has passed, and the idea of this not lasting very long, sadly, is not the truth. We're in this for the long haul. I'm wondering from you guys, how has your life, your work life, the way that you are sort of operating your homes changed over the last couple months?
The thing about COVID it's brought everyone to the full attention that their home is not working. And so I think couple that with, we're getting a lot of people moving to Oregon, where we all live, from mostly California. So there's a lot of Bay Area movement up here. So you've got homes not working. They need to have places for children to go to, homeschool or even just independent study. There's people wanting meditation rooms. There's people wanting home gyms. You kind of want to make your home everything. So what's happening is people are changing up where they live. And so they're either maximizing what they have in their own home. They're moving, from the city to the suburbs to the rural areas, or this influx of Californians are moving here. So it's never been busier. I literally can't keep up with the workload. I'm hiring help. It's been really kind of crazy. And of course, the mentality as a small business owner is, who knows how long this is going to last? We've got all sorts of things that are indicating that there could be some economic considerations here. So I'm sort of riding with it, knowing that it might not, be this busy forever, but it's been crazy. It really has. Like it hasn't it's not sustainable for me. So I'm just kind of living in that place right now and trying to be comfortable with that. And just like we all are trying to be comfortable with what's happening with COVID and a myriad of other things. But the economy is a big part of that for small business owners like myself. So just writing it out and trying to be comfortable with discomfort.
Yeah. Kat, how's it going for you?
I think we have a really unique situation because when all this started, it's about the time we started farming, seriously. And so we were finding ourselves outside while everybody else was trying to make their inside work. And then when we opened the market, and now, October is the big month for a lot of farms because we count on the revenue of people coming out to buy their pumpkins and go in the maize. And this is the month that basically pays for the year. So of course there was a lot of, it was basically very terrifying. Is anybody going to come to help us keep going? But also, how do we make it a very safe place so that when people come, they feel comfortable and that they are safe? So a lot of things had to be redesigned. And everything from, having less touch points to spreading out to, for example, where you maybe used to buy a pumpkin in one location. Now, how can we spread it out and have 4 locations so people can be spread out? How can we, put together hay rides where only a family at a time or a handful of people at a time go? And so we had to really kind of reinvent the whole experience. And it's been, I feel like, for me personally, I feel like we've had this, we offer people like a little slice of normalcy where when they come out, they can forget everything maybe for a couple hours. They're outside, there's people around even though they're at a distance. And so you see like maybe a chance for people to recharge a little bit. And so for me, I've had this very, very different experience, even with the fires. With the fires, when it was we had 3 people come in the market a day. It was not a good time for us financially, but it was an incredible time because the people that did come in were often folks that had been evacuated and they were coming in to get food. And so our whole purpose for a week, again, we had to redesign it and figure out a way to adapt to what was going on. And it felt, it's hard to feel sorry for yourself when you see people going through losing their home or losing their animals. So I feel like we've had a really unusual vantage point of everything happening. Hope that wasn't too long.
No, it's interesting because we're talking about design today, and what you just touched on was not only sort of the physical design of what you're having to do with your space at the farm, but also like how you sort of design and change what you're doing, right? And how you look at that, who you have to serve. What about you, Jen? How are things going for you right now?
Yeah, I definitely echo the sentiment of both Cami and Kat in terms of just unprecedented times. But I do think that, working in a small firm with teams of people on projects, we've just had to be a lot scrappier, and just resilient in terms of organizing projects and deliverables, working with clients. And also just this idea of figuring out different ways to convey designs to clients, right? Because you don't have the liberty of being right there in front of people a lot of times, especially people that are moving and they're outside the state. So you have to have this level of trust to understand kind of the big picture of where you want to go. And since everything is really unknown, it is a little bit hard to design in that kind of vacuum, right? Because people want to be safe and comfortable, and it's hard to know what's kind of coming down the pike. So
it sounds like you're doing a lot of the work that you're doing virtually right now.
That's true. Yeah, we're still working remotely, all of us.
Yeah. Because Cami, you're going out a lot still, right? Going into homes and kind of having to be really right there with people. Is that right?
Yeah, nothing's really changed. I mean, there was the stay-at-home orders, and of course we all stayed in during that time. And probably like 3 weeks after it lifted, I was still like, we're not going back out there, right? Like that's not like, it's not like over. And then everyone else just kind of got back to normal, and clients expected me to go do, the first walkthrough at their home. And so just getting more comfortable with that. And at this point, it doesn't feel any different like it did before, except for that I'm more careful about anytime I can not drive to a client's house if I know that person's not going to end up being my client. So I definitely get on the phone and have the first client interview, Zoom call, that kind of thing, so I can determine, is this really a good match for us? And for the client too, there's just certain things we're not doing right now. Like if you want us to design your basement, we're not going to do it. If you want us to design your kitchen and your master bath, oh yeah, we'll do that. So we can be a little bit, I wouldn't say picky or choosier, but we're trying to find things that are a better match for us, things that are exciting to us. We like really transformative things and using a lot of different materials, tiles and quartz and natural stone and all that. But yeah, for the most part, we're back at it, but just, with this weird way that we can't see, each other's reaction to anything. And all my jokes and stuff are like, people are looking at me like, okay, that was weird that she just said that. I'm like, I don't know, if you saw my face, you'd realize it was funny, So there's just all this like weird communication, but I feel like we're all in this together in the same sort of way. So people are adapting, and, kind of feeling like, I don't know, there's some bonding going on with client to designer, and that I've never really felt before, because we're really, really all in the same weird bubble together.
Let's talk for a minute about freelancers and what they can be doing right now to sort of keep motivated, because a lot of people are kind of working in the confines of their own home, like we were just talking about. But if you're a freelancer and maybe you're just starting out and you don't have that sort of network that you're meeting with on a regular basis, you aren't going to the coffee shop, for example, and sitting there for hours. What should sort of young freelancers be doing to keep motivated and to get some work going these days? Any advice?
Well, what I usually say without COVID, I guess still applies. And that is really, you have such an opportunity when you're starting out that you don't have after you've been doing it for a while. And that's to be able to reach out and work as an intern, as a fly on the wall, now I know we can't get together physically, but there's so many opportunities to connect with designers and firms that have been doing this for a while. Even if you donate a couple hours a week, think of it as a free class, right? It's such an opportunity. Like, one of the problems I think a lot of freelancers make, I know I did, is we just get started and we're busy and we're working in a vacuum. And the more you have an opportunity, even if you're, just doing an informational interview via Zoom, the more you have an opportunity to talk to other designers and other creatives and see how they're doing it. Think of it as like, feeding your soul, adding it up. So I have a couple friends where we keep ourselves creative and working with some really, easy things to do right now. One is every Monday you check in and talk about a creative project that you've worked on, and just having that accountability that you have someone that you're going to be sharing what you're doing is incredibly motivating. And again, getting you outside of working in a vacuum and talking about it, bouncing it off. One of the best, Snow, you probably remember this, one of the best practices I always would tell students is being able to talk about your work, because we might love something, but you have to be able to articulate why this is going to be effective. And you can still do that from your computer. You can still be talking about things. You can still be taking criticism. I always find when folks are starting out in the beginning, you feel like, no, this is the perfect solution. Like, why don't they like my idea? But as we gain more experience, we know there's always multiple solutions, right? And so some of it is in making someone feel comfortable and walking them through it, but some of it is in listening and hearing what their concerns are and then reworking it. And all of those things you can practice, via Zoom or phone right now. The final thing is, there's so many people to reach out to. You don't have to know the folks you're reaching out to. If you know of an agency or a designer whose work you respect, you could send them an email. It's remarkable how few people do this, but how well received it is when folks reach out. So I encourage everybody that's starting out to give that a shot.
I've been thinking a lot about like geographical boundaries recently and thinking now that we really live on Zoom, when we're doing things, we don't have to just limit ourselves anymore, right? We don't have to be, we could be talking at this moment with, designers in New York and London and wherever the exact same way, which technically, of course, has always been the case. But now it's like sort of mentally opening up to, it's really just the same now, wherever someone is. So.
Sarah and everybody, I just wanted to pop in. I feel awkward because you can see that I'm here, but you can't see me. So I may as well just show my face and be here. And
yay!
Hey, we're happy.
We love snow.
Oh, that's really good. We are so fortunate that you put this together. So it's awesome.
So I'm here, part of the group, but we've got this program. We're working through this to all of our attendees, these designer spotlight series, and running these smoothly on Zoom, and it's a process. So
yep, absolutely, we are all learning. Jen, what's your take on working digitally? How is that going for you?
It's been a learning process. We didn't necessarily have much infrastructure when we first started. We did. We were a collaborative office that did most of all our work together. So it's really just, it's been a lot of, Dropbox and Gmails and the Drive. And I think it just takes a lot of communication. And we're just always speaking to each other in terms of a team, not just like project based, but how are you doing or what do you need help on? Just trying to be really engaged with how people are working. So, but I do think it's been a learning curve, but moving forward, it really does go to show that you can do a lot of work remotely. So I think this has been a really good exercise, at least for this group.
Obviously, there are a lot of success stories in this group, but like, what's the biggest challenge right now? What are you guys facing career-wise that's really kind of tugging at you, that's really hard these days?
I think one of the things that's so difficult for everyone is we don't have an end date.
Yeah.
So, when you usually put forth a plan, you kind of know what you're working with. No one knows that right now. So, it's a moving target. And I think that creatives that are used to problem solving and being flexible and being able to pivot are going to have more success right now. If that's the right way to put it. I don't know if any of us are having success, but reinventing there's so many great, I like how you said the success stories. There's so many folks that are kind of reinventing how they're doing things now, and it's necessary.
I think to piggyback on that, I think it's, there's the gift in every problem, right? And we've all been basically changing how we do business for 6, 7, 8 months. I don't even know how long. And that's a testament, because if you asked me last year, I know exactly how long I make plans and I have things I'm looking forward to, vacations, and I set goals and I exercise and I do things that, make my life work. And this year has just blown all of that out of the water. And I think that there's some really good things that come from that, and that I truly believe is being uncomfortable and not being able to plan, and seeing like there's some gifts with all of what's going on. I think even in these like Zoom calls that I'll have with clients, I have to actually be prepared for my Zoom calls. And I think we talked about this on the last one. And I used to show up at client's house and I'm like, oh, this is where I shine. I'm so good at going to client walkthroughs. Like, I don't have to even look at their Pinterest board, whatever they sent me, whatever. I'll just like totally wing it. And I do very well in the field. Well, you can't do that on a Zoom call. I'm kind of looking around in the background, like, are they in their kitchen? Are they in a hotel? Where are they right now? And I have no, clues to look for. So I have to actually get prepared. And that's very foreign to me. At least in the last like 10 years, I've been, I wouldn't say winging it's the right word, but there is an element of that for sure. It's using my experience and my expertise and kind of going with it and trusting myself. And if that's stripped away and you have to actually get prepared, there's a lot of good that comes out of that. You discover a lot of things before that meeting, instead of like, oh, now I have to pivot because there's 4 or 5 things I had assumed are not what they were. And so I think that there's so many, I think there's so many gifts in what's happened to all of us collectively, and probably will continue to be. And I think we'll take those with us in the future. I think that the way I approach my business is probably forever changed.
So is Pinterest still a thing? Do people still use Pinterest?
My clients
Actually, the designer that I'm interviewing on our next panel is a huge Pinterest user. She's an architectural designer, and that's like one of her main tools is Pinterest boards with her clients, I think with interior design and architecture. I don't know, Cami and Jennifer, if you guys use Pinterest at all with your clients, but she loves that as a tool to get, on the same page with what they want and get inspired and, share boards.
I feel like if I was working with one of you and I showed you my Pinterest board, you'd all be like, get a life, Sarah. You're not getting a house. Dream on. You need more than me designing for you to be able to get that.
That's hilarious.
It's a wish list for sure.
Let's face that.
We're here to kind of get you back to reality, right?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Yeah, and like how you work as a designer and how much you involve the client in the collaboration of the design. Because for me, I love how the designer that I'm interviewing, Anna De Wolf, uses those Pinterest boards to collaborate with the client. But I think that, that's a topic that I would love to hear from some of the experts on, on how you work with your clients and involve them in the process and the collaboration of of what you want to present without letting them take over.
Right.
If I might, go ahead, Jen, do you have something?
No, I was going to ask you what you but what you use to kind of work through precedences like that.
I don't really use anything. I really use the fact that I can kind of size someone up, like when a client, and I'm usually working with couples, and so they might say, oh, I have this Pinterest board, or, we really want a white and gray kitchen. So I kind of I'm looking for who are these people, and I'm kind of putting them in these preliminary buckets. And sometimes people really surprise me. I'm working with this client right now that I thought he's an engineer, and when I work with engineers, they are not as interested in design. They think everything is very linear, and usually it's my greatest struggle is when I'm working with anyone who's an engineer. I think it's just the opposite of things should be aesthetic and full of light. They should be functional, and there should be flow, and it should make sense, and there should be, but this especially the husband really surprised me in when we went and looked at stone. He picked this insanely beautiful, crazy, I'm like, no one's doing that today. No one is doing that today. I don't know if anyone's going to love this kitchen when you go to sell your house in 7 or 8 years. But these things they're like little clues for me to figure out where my boundaries are. I think that unlike an artist where, you've got this blank canvas and you can just do whatever, that would scare the shit out of me. I'm constantly looking for, I'm like a toddler. I'm looking for where the boundaries, where am I going to fall over the cliff, and that's what sort of is, and where can so if I know where there's the boundary, I can push just a little beyond that. But I'm not really trying to imprint on them Cami Gray Interiors, which is not just me, it's me and my daughter, business partners. But, so but I'm not trying to put our thing on them. I'm trying to find out where those boundaries and borders are. How can I push them outside of that? And when I kind of scare them a little, you know, how scared are we? Are we like could we go a little bit over there? And even just little things like people with cowhide. People have such crazy strong reactions to cowhide or rattan. You know, you throw like a rattan light fixture and they're like, what is that? We're not in Indonesia. Like is that like a thing people put in their house? Like, I don't understand that. And so trying to help people get, their head around things. But generally I'm just looking for how can I contribute to what they're trying to do? How can I make an impact on their specific lives? Not caring about how's it going to look for my portfolio. I'm thrilled when it's going to look good for my portfolio, and I can tell when it's like, oh, this is going to be a good one, what I'm going to want to put out there. And they're not all like that, and that's okay too. I'm just like, how do I make this work for them? And then push them just a little, because at the end, I want them to say, most of the things you showed me, I would have never thought about for myself, and they feel totally me, and I feel totally at home in my space. That's when I know I have done my job.
That's awesome. Do you get bored at all? Do enough? A lot of people come and say they sort of want the same thing, like something's trendy right now. Everyone wants the same color of gray walls or whatever it might be. You sometimes think, oh, come on, live a little bit.
No, I don't. I mean, yes, I do. I get bored with that. But I'm not in it for that. I'm not in it for the final outcome. Sometimes I get totally surprised, like the engineer I was just saying, that kitchen is I'm so excited to shoot that. And I'm not even sure if it fits within my portfolio or anything. I'm so happy that he kind of took us there. Like, it was just cool. And I think he would give me all the credit, but I needed him too. So it's like this play, but that is what it boils down to for me, are the people. Like, I do care so much about the outcome, but sometimes it is just, we really want Subway tile, and I'll be like, there's alternatives to Subway that are kind of like Subway, but a little bit cooler, a little bit more handmade, something like they might be doing in Italy right now, but they might be as classic and timeless. So if I can push them just a little and we can have a little fun, but I'm way deep into it with the humans. Like, that's the fun part for me.
This one to you, Jen. What advice do you have for more introverted personality types in embracing their communication style and still getting respect as a designer or a professional, even if they're not the loudest one at the table?
I definitely struggled with that earlier in my career. And I think actually one of the things that was a huge breakthrough for me was reading I'm going to forget the whole name, but it's like The Quiet Book by Susan Cain, all about introverts. Yeah. And I'm a huge fan of, I was going to say self-help personal development books, but this felt like one of the first books where it was just like evidence-based, it was just like, this is how society has kind of shifted from an introvert to an extrovert focused, society, I guess, and it really broke down the benefits around introverts. And to be honest with you, from that time, which was like, I don't know, I guess it was probably like 6 or 7 years ago, I started really honing in on people in the industry that I saw a kinship with my personality, with being an introvert, right? And like, how are they dealing with not being the loudest at the table, and like, what are their characteristics, and really honing in on that and celebrating that, right? Because just being able to really listen and be thoughtful and synthesize what people want, like what Cami said about like really diving into the human element. I was going to say, like, so much of this, especially the Pinterest board thing, is this balance between like who you truly are and how you live versus how you aspirationally want to live, because so much of that stuff is not real. And you kind of have to sift through that and figure out, what are the things that you can be pushed on, or what are the little things that are actually going to bring you joy, even though it's not like the norm, like that countertop or whatever. That sounds amazing, right? Because it's just not like the normal kind of trendy thing that you would see. But yeah, it's like you have to hone into those elements. So I think if I circle back as an introvert, I think you have that ability um, to really be quiet and listen and kind of synthesize where your clients are coming from.
I'm not sure if it would be easier or harder to work from home if you're an introvert, because I feel like part of it is like you'd be, so in your home that you're like cozy in there that you don't have it's a lot harder to reach out to people, right? And a lot easier to stay inside yourself. I don't know if that's true or if that affects you at all.
Yeah, I've been really loving working from home. But when I do end up, either meeting clients or definitely if I have to, not have to, but if I meet up with fellow consultants and we're just troubleshooting something, then I remember, I get that jolt of energy of just collaborating with somebody and bouncing ideas off of people, which is the thing that I really miss. So I can see the benefit in both, but yeah, I think the remote work I slid into that pretty easily.
Pat, I feel like you would probably thrive off of being out with people. Am I right?
So I'm the opposite. I was thinking about when Jen was talking, is that I think to be successful as a designer, it has everything to do with communication. And that doesn't necessarily mean being the one that's talking. It means really being able to draw things out of your clients and being able to get them to talk, to get them to share. And so, yes, I do enjoy being face to face with my clients. I do. I like reading the body language. I like trying to make them more comfortable. I like asking the same question 3 different ways until suddenly, they start to answer it a little bit differently. I find that, the hardest thing for me when I started my firm, this was probably in 2000, the hardest thing for me was I'm a designer, not a salesperson. And so I made my first business plan to say, I want to be successful enough that work comes to me. That was my plan. And what I found was you can have work come to you if you are helping someone be successful. If you are making them money, if you are able to show that this design or this magazine or this, this thing that I did is selling more ads or is reaching more people or is, resulting in, this, as opposed to just, looking nice and having a nice tone, you can actually show success, then they're going to keep coming back. And so to do that, I feel is entirely about communication. So whether you do that quietly, whether you do that by asking for a Pinterest board, by asking questions. I mean, there's, again, a million different ways to do that. You just have to do it in the way that's most comfortable for you.
We touched on that a little bit last time we talked, but I'd love to hear some more, and then Cami from you as well. The balance of being an artist, being a designer, having that part of your brain, but then having to also go to the part of is this making someone money? Is this making someone successful? It's 2 very different.
But not
ways,
really.
Right?
But not really. Because, well, I suppose you can look at it that way, but it's not really different because for me, when you're trying to design something, for me personally, what's fun is all of the limitations. It's what Cami said before, right? It's all the limitations. It's all of these things. So if one of the things is, how do I reach more people? How do we sell more ads? How do we, whatever this, what we've decided is the end goal, how do we do that? How can we do that effectively? How do I reach the people that need to see this? Then that just adds to the challenge of the design. So for example, maybe your design, insert the adjective you want, right? But maybe it looks more accessible to someone who's 20, or maybe it's more accessible to someone who's 60, right? Or more accessible to someone who's going to be looking at it on their phone. And so you add all of these things, and it's like the monster Sudoku, right? Give me as many limitations as possible. And then the answer usually presents itself. So one of the things that I did every single newspaper I ever redesigned is it was in my contract that when we would begin a project, we were going to do a flip through. So we were going to flip through every page of the newspaper with the entire staff. So that meant not just the editor, not just the art director. We were going to have the receptionist. We were going to have, every single person that worked on this product. And we would flip through, and my job became entirely to get people to talk and to get that one person that talks too much to maybe not talk for a few minutes and, get people to talk, because it was the surefire way to have a successful end product, because the answers were already in the room. People already knew, this isn't working. This works really well. Oh, wouldn't it be great, if it was like this? And you listen, and by listening, like I said, it's all the answers present themselves. And they were there, but maybe this person over here didn't listen to that person for whatever reason. How would they know? They've only been in this job for 6 months. Or how would they know? They're only, whatever. Oh, that's not their job. I mean, you hear people all the time discredit folks, and they just, you don't understand all the issues. But if you listen, it's remarkable how everything floats to the surface. I always felt a little bit guilty, because if you just do that, the answer's there.
I've always found that when I've managed people, I've always felt the same thing. As being a good manager or business person, the biggest thing is listening to people and hearing them say what they need to hear, right? They know what their answer is. They probably know where they need to go. Cami and Jen, I presume they sort of know what their design sense is, but they have to you have to hear it. They have to be able to say it to someone who can hear it. Does that make sense?
You mean from a client's perspective?
Yeah.
I don't think my clients know. I think they have I think they have their own sort of idea, and kind of what Jen was saying. There's almost like that, what's trendy, I feel like it's so, it can be so much bigger and broader. And I think that's what I'm looking for. When I say bigger and broader, I don't mean like this bigger and broader. I mean just like this, So I think I'm looking for, okay, so this is like a very safe, current thing that they're thinking for their, whatever their new project is. And I'm really trying to make them feel like the world is a little bit bigger and more interesting and colorful, not necessarily colorful, but in the figurative way, that there's just more out there, and it can be more them. They don't have to just be like, what's current today, what people, I get asked a lot, like, but is this going to last for 20 years? I'm like, absolutely not. I mean, no. And I couldn't guarantee you. I mean, any person who says yes to that question is lying. Because we don't know. I mean, we don't know next year. So if we've learned anything this year, it's like, there's no way to predict anything. So, and how fast things change and kind of get forced upon us from a design perspective home edits, the big, huge show right now, apparently, because my clients talk about it all the time. They're like, are you interested in organization? Because I've been watching that show, Home Edit. I want to have all my closets. And I was like, hiring the wrong person, or hire I'll do everything but the inside of the closets, and you hire different person for that. But yeah, so I think it's more about trying to find what's a true reflection of them, because that's what's going to ultimately make you. Because unlike Kat, I'm not making my clients any money. I'm taking their money and draining it down. Just putting it down the drain. This is all I mean, this is not helping anyone's bank account. Hopefully, it will help them for resale purposes. That they're putting their money into their home. But the guy with the crazy countertop. I
would assume it helps them in lots of ways, though, because if you're more comfortable in your home and it makes you feel creative or makes you feel good, I mean, there's still these things that you're achieving. I was thinking, though, to go back to your earlier question, I think one of the things that we always forget to talk about is the talent aspect. We're talking about the business aspect, the things we can learn, how to be successful with our clients. But the thing about creatives that we often skip is there's the talent aspect, and that can't be taught. And so, I know when you walk into a place, you immediately can see the possibilities, or you can see what you do, but that's not true of everyone. I think that's why I think people sometimes get tripped up, and if they really like to draw, or they really like to take photos, or they really like one piece and they want to just do that. I always say, well, then you need to be a fine artist, because that's only one piece of being a successful creative.
But back to your point, Kat, I mean, I think that when you were giving the advice to people listening to this that might be younger, or at least changing into a new career, it's like getting that experience with talented people who can guide them, show them, just even be on the fly on the wall on a installation day like I had today, just
right.
Seeing what it takes. And my daughter she's been doing interior design for maybe 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know, probably all her life. But when she first started out and wanted to start her own business, she found a lot of those things really like kind of awful, like the clients, and having to ask for money and having to, this is kind of going to be more expensive. And seeing what she has become over the last 5 years, and how I actually really look to her, not that she cares because she'll just give it to me anyway, but I think it is talent for sure, which she had, but she had to put in the work of getting comfortable with all the things she was uncomfortable with. And that just was like absolutely getting experience and just having to like put yourself in that situation.
And times have changed so much, because, for example, when I went to school, I remember one of my teachers talking about, back then they melted metal to set type. And he talked about for 6 years, all he did was carry the metal back and forth before he was allowed to set a single line of type. And you think about that apprentice mentality where you're there and you're learning and you're taking things in. We now, at least designers with, the creative suite, we can start designing, before we've even been allowed to drive, right? Like we can be in our rooms and start designing, have access to all these tools, but it doesn't mean we've had access to, watching how folks do things and why they do things. And that's why I so love when freelancers take the time to go to different agencies, because, for example, let's say you go and help out at one agency that maybe it's like White and Kennedy, and it's a very big, they have a certain way. And then you go to another where maybe it's a family business and there's 3 people and it's entirely different, right? One might speak to you and one might turn you off. There's so many things like that. It's an amazing opportunity for you to go in. And for me, I had no desire to go into publication design. I had lots of ideas in my head based on what I studied in school and the classes I liked. But when I got into an agency that did a little of everything, I found that every time the publication projects came in the door, I got more excited. And, that wouldn't have happened if I had jumped right to the type of agency that did the one thing I thought I was into at the time, right? And you have this opportunity to do that. There was this one woman, I'm not going to name her, I always name her. There was this one woman in Portland who, this would have been in like 1989. She had moved to Portland 3 years earlier. She couldn't get a job in design. This was the time I remember you'd apply for a job and 150 people would, apply with you. And so she wrote me and said, I'd love to come and just help out. I will get coffee. I will sweep the floors. I need to be, in a creative environment. And she came and she never once acted like I'm too big to just get coffee, because she had worked for years as a designer. She came and she was a true team member, and she was there to help and to be there. And within a year, she was the art director. And now fast forward, she's a huge design director in Portland. She's doing so many publications you guys would all know. And I'm bringing this up for folks that when they start feel like, well, I need to get paid. I can't work for free, right? And, watching her ability to just want to be a sponge and just want to come in and just want to be around design and want to work with people, it was like looking back, it was obvious that where she was going to go. So I can't encourage people enough. Like, if you have time, make 3 hours a week. Take that opportunity to go, even if you go somewhere and find out you don't like it, then you know that's not for me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Snow, for you, if you don't mind sort of joining the conversation some more, how do you sort of balance that artistic and creative part with the sort of business success? You know, you look at what we're doing right now, and it seems to me that you're pivoting a little bit and kind of bringing in some of these conversations and a new kind of element to the work that you're doing. Where's your balance? How are you doing that?
Well, that is a great question for me, Sarah, and something I dwell on and think about a lot, you know, on where do I want to focus my attention? Because my mom was an artist. I come from a family of artists, and I have a certain devotion to creativity and art and non-business, non-conformity type of lifestyle. I went into graphic design because I didn't feel like I could make it as a fine artist. And graphic design was, you know, a way to be creative, but also be able to make money and get a job, more likely to have a career. Part of the reason why I launched a creative agency is because I recognized that I wasn't the best graphic designer. You know, that I'm also a mother. I've got 2 boys, single mom. So my plate is very full, and I only have so much time and attention to put into my career and into graphic design, and the technicalities that takes, you know, is intense to be a good, not only good at being creative and being an artist and being a designer, but also to have the technical skills to accomplish good graphic design. And I recognize that there's graphic designers out there that are better than me at that. So this way, running a creative agency, I get to be in the creative world. I get to ideate and come up with creative concepts and work with clients and brainstorm and all of that stuff, which I really love. But I don't have to do all of the technical back end of it. So that's kind of my thinking in, you know, how I can stay in the creative world, be creative, and not have to put so much time into the technical side of it.
Does the creative brain ever turn off? Like, Cami, are you always thinking design? Or Jen, are you? You're not. I love that. No, I turn off.
Yeah, like if I'm at your house, Sarah, if you invite me over, which you totally should, you know, come over I'm not looking at, you know, how you've styled your shelves or what's on your mantle or anything like that. No, I completely turn it off. I mean, there are times when maybe I'm traveling or whatever, and I've given myself just a freedom just to kind of like soak in whatever hits me. You know, and then I'm sort of looking, but I'm not looking for anything specific. I'm not even looking for inspiration. I'm just like being sort of in the moment and stuff. And those can be super freeing, and a lot of great things happen from that. But no, I can definitely turn it off. I mean, it's not like, oh, unless you pay me, you know, this amount of dollars, I'm not going to think creatively, but I don't feel like it's in my brain space all the time at all.
Jen, what about you?
I like that you you aren't giving into judging other people's like layouts.
Oh, I know. I know she's got pumpkins on her mantle.
It's okay. It's all good. Yeah, no, I feel like, yeah, it gets turned on and off. I mean, everything's coming in, as you're saying, like you're just a sponge for inspiration, but I don't know. I kind of feel like I wanted to make one comment that maybe like ties in a couple of different things just for people that, Sarah, you were saying about people, clients or people that have projects maybe knowing the answer, but having to be pushed and, to get it out there. And I was thinking maybe it's just that people know that it's time for a change or a shift. Like there's that kind of internal knowledge that something needs to change, but they can't really visualize it. Like I can't say that I'm a person that can go into a space and just like automatically see what needs to be there. And for a while that was really problematic to me because I'm like, I should know how that, but I am a person that's comfortable with the sequence and the system and the process to get there. And I know that you go step by step and you get all the information and you work with great people, like what you were talking about, Snow, like you reach out to people and experts and pros to get their lens basically. And in the end, you will come out with a successful, beautiful project or product, right? Because like those steps to get there and you're comfortable with the process, which is a really actually an uncomfortable overall process sometimes. But that I feel is kind of, I guess, the basis of being creative, if anything. So, but you can have all these different perspectives, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think that is so important that you just brought that up. And it was, as Snow was talking, I was thinking the same thing, that I think that especially as a young designer, a young creative, when I was like, I don't have this skill, I know my shortcomings. I know where I fall short. I do. And we all kind of do. And it's not like, oh, we suck. We're never going to be enough. We're not, we're never going to measure up. But there is a place for all of us. I mean, when I first went on House to sign up as interior designer, Portland, Oregon, there were 896 of us. I'm like, 896? Like, I'm screwed. I'm like, I can't break into this business. Like, I'm never going to like rise to the top. And you realize you don't have to rise to the top. There is no, there might not be enough work for everyone. I can't speak to that because that's just, the ebb and flow of, how things are with the economy and 12 million other things that I cannot speak to. But Jen has found a way that is her process, her system, the way she knows that she adds value, and the outcome is incredibly a huge contribution to the people that have hired her. And I think that is the same for all of us here. And the thing for anyone listening to this that's thinking like, well, I'm never going to be what you three are, or the 896 designers, interior designers in Portland. No, you're not. You're going to be what you are and what the way that you add value. And it's not about like us being self-deprecating about like our shortcomings and we still made it. It's like the way in which we got there is we used who we were, what we have, what our strengths were. And then we used a whole lot of other people in the process. And then to Kat's point, as good of communication skills as you could possibly muster, because listening is probably the most important part, because all of us, whether we're making money for someone or taking money from someone, we are solving a problem for our clients. And that's the thing, that's the outcome that you have to get to. So however you get there is all you. And, so that's the recipe that you need to come up with for yourself.
Thank you. And ladies, it was so nice to spend some time with you again. Cami, I want to take you on that idea and have us all have actual drinks together instead of virtual ones.
Yes.
That's right.
I can't wait for that day.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Snow. And thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, ladies.
Yes,
And thanks
thank
all
you
of
all.
you who attended.
I forgot one other thing. Snow, tell us about the next in this series that you have going on.
Thank you, Sarah. So the next Designer Spotlight series is going to be an interview with Anna DeWolf. She's who I was talking about. She is the co-owner of Archiform, which is a design remodel firm and an architectural designer. And that will be on Wednesday, November 19th at 7 p.m. I'll be putting out more information about that, and I hope you guys will. That'll be a kind of a different style. I'll be interviewing her in person. It'll be a video and should be super fun.
All right, ladies. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
That concludes our broadcast this evening. Thank you very much for joining us, a webinar focused on women in design.